Welcome everybody, this is the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform weekly community call with Microsoft speakers with certain exceptions every now and then, like today. I'll come back on that one in a second. Today is November 18th. It is actually the keynote day of Ignite as well. We're going to talk about that one briefly on this call as well. And Ignite keynote starts on the next hour, so which would be 9 a.m. Pacific time. Today, this call started at 8 a.m. Pacific time. My name is Esa Juvonen. I'm a principal product manager of Microsoft, helping on community sites on multiple different organizations and whatever we can do to help you to be successful in Microsoft 365 and Power Platform. Now, today we're going to go through a set of assets which are available for you to get started on Microsoft 365 Power Platform. We understand that we're repeating those slides quite often, but there's always new people joining on this call. So we want to make sure that everybody has access on the baseline information, and then you can start deep diving on a more detailed capabilities across the Microsoft 365 Power Platform, whatever is your interest. Now, we will also go through the latest news across Microsoft blogs, which wasn't that much. Well, technically right now, it's already a lot because a lot of those news articles were scheduled to get released at 8 a.m. Pacific time this morning. That is the Ignite announcement time. So within 2 minutes ago, there was a flurry of Microsoft blogs going live into internet. But within the slide, which we're going to go through today, they are not there yet because I can't update the slides as I'm actually in this call and talking. Now, and then we're going to go through the picture time. So basically, we're going to go typical Microsoft Teams picture time together, and we're going to share that in social media a bit later today. Today's stars will be Damien, who's going to talk about introduction of Power Platform Code Interpreter. I can't pronounce that word, unfortunately. It's some sort of a weird word for me to pronounce it. But Damien's going to talk about that one first, and then Derek is going to follow up on how Learning Pathways was built, advanced UX solution for Microsoft 365. Now, Derek is not actually a Microsoft employee. He works for Praxis, but since the Learning Pathways was something what we as a Microsoft funded and created together with community, and it was transitioning to the community ownership pretty recently, we wanted to make sure that it's properly covered within these calls as well. So you're up to date on what is that and how has it been built? How does it actually work? Which is really, really cool to understand as well. Now, we do have a lot of assets available for you to get started on Microsoft 365 and Power Platform. We have our YouTube channel where we publish a lot of content, almost too much content. So YouTube keeps on telling us, don't publish this many videos. But again, we have so much cool content generated by many of you, which we want to actually get published from this channel, including these community call recordings and individual demos from this calls as well. But a lot of other stuff is getting published there as well. And it just crossed 70,000 subscribers, which is pretty cool. We do have a LinkedIn page and a group for discussions in LinkedIn side. A lot of open source assets available, but as it might be a bit difficult to find the relevant sample for you through those individual GitHub repos and so many locations, we actually have the centralized sample galleries, which is available for you to easily access all of the samples from Microsoft and from community from a one centralized location. A lot of URLs to remember. Luckily, actually, it's only one, but there's two URLs which is routing to the same location. So AKMS Community Home or Community MS, those are both actually redirecting to the same location where you can find more details on all of this stuff which is available for you. Now, we do host a lot of community calls. So we do have at least 2 community calls every single week. This week, actually 3. So first of all, we have the 8 a.m. Tuesdays happening community call, which is with Microsoft presenters. So in this call, you hear the latest and greatest from product managers and cloud advocates and architects and whoever is working in Microsoft building capabilities for you and updating you on those things. Cloud advocates, among other things, engineers and so on. And that's happening at 8 a.m. every single Tuesday. On Thursdays, 7 a.m. Thursdays, we have the Microsoft 365 Power Platform community call with community presenters. And this is really for you to also join as a presenter potentially. And we want to basically learn from each other. So how are these products being built? What kind of things are being created? The learnings from your day-to-day projects can be shared within that call as well. On top of that, we do have a Power Platform monthly community call happening actually this week at Wednesday. So we have a call this week on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Happen to be also Ignite week. So much stuff happening. Oh my God. And then we have the Office Add-in monthly community call where Microsoft Office adding product managers are sharing the latest. A lot of stuff to follow up on, all of the recurrent invites at AKMS community calls. And then we have our meetup service, which is a really nice way of getting these agendas shared for you within your inbox. So you can go to the meetup service, sign up, and you will actually get, whenever we publish an agenda, you will get an email actually to your inbox basically saying, next Tuesday, Damien is going to talk about this and this stuff. And then you can decide, do you want to see that live or do you want to actually see that as a recording afterwards? Your call, or everything available for you to take advantage. Now, for a lot of those calls, like the Power Platform monthly call and Thursday call every single week, are with community presenters. This is a great way to get an MVP status for renewed or get the MVP status in the first place. So basically signing up for the demos and explaining your stories on different things. Doesn't have to be rocket science. Again, we're looking into getting started stories. We're looking into how are you using the products, or maybe you have built something. Explain us and other people how that's built, because everybody learns from other people within the community. Now, we do have a lot of also samples available from Microsoft and from the community at AKMS Community Samples URL. Great location where you can actually just use the text search and find the relevant sample for you based on your business case and based on your business requirements. Is it Power Platform? Is it Teams? Is it SharePoint Framework? Doesn't matter. You can find all of those from one centralized location. Now, as you find the same demo or sample, well, you might be wondering, I have this cool sample. I would like to contribute that to that one centralized location, but how would I actually do that? I don't know, but we have you covered. We have our Sharing is Caring initiative, and David Warner, directly from LA, Hollywood, is going to explain what on earth is this. David, help me.
Yes, Tessa, we are live at the Hollywood studios. No, I'm just kidding. We're just at my house. But yes, this is here, everyone, to provide hands-on guidance. And we're getting that session scheduled here in December. Lots of overlapping vacations. So we're trying to be sensitive to everybody's time and reflection opportunities and all that. But we know some are going to be taking time, so we want to be able to provide that opportunity. These sessions, as Vesta said, provide hands-on guidance. So that means that you're able to join a live Teams call with other members of the community, and it is a safe space, which means we do not record it. So we're going to be hands-on doing a contribution through GitHub, that hub of Gits, that GitHub hubs, that confusing labyrinth of phrases like pull request and fork and blame and raw. We'll demystify it. You'll be an expert, no problem, and you will then be empowered to contribute to the community or use some of the samples even more. So keep an eye out at aka.ms/sharing is caring. And of course, when you do join, it is a complete contribution. And why does that matter? Because we've got our community recognition program, which is super hot right now. We've got so many amazing, fun, accredited badges for this time of year. Prompt Pro and Snippet Sorcerer have been around for a while, and they're still super popular. We are into the season of getting slice of samples. We've got our Back to the Community and Gigabit Contributor, and of course, Home Alone and Elf-themed badges for the end of the year, festive and fun, but they show that you are making a difference. So just got to contribute 1 or 2 contributions over the next 2 months, and you can earn all of these badges. So a lot of cool, super fun, absolutely free. We cover the cost. aka.ms/community/recognition. Just need to opt in once, and we'll track you. And we were getting some of these sent out this morning. So be on the lookout, share them, show them to your clients and your bosses, because they do prove that you are making a difference more than others. So thank you all for the amazing work that you've been doing. That's back to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Hollywood Studios, Helsinki Studios taking over. Now, let's go to the quick recap on events. So TechCon 365, Seattle, Atlanta, Dallas has already happened. Atlanta is coming. And right this week, it was announced that Chicago is coming back in June 15 to 19, 2026. Please check out TechCon 365 for all of the details over there. Now, Ignite is happening today, right now. Well, not right now, right after this call, because Satya is queued up right after us, of course. Now, just kidding. 9 a.m. Starting at Pacific time is the Ignite keynote, and it's not Satya actually this time doing the keynote hosting, but that's at ignitemicrosoft.com, and it's completely free to register and watch those things live from that centralized location. It's live sessions and also on-demand sessions at ignitemicrosoft.com. And then following up within 2 weeks, we have ESBC coming up, which is a really about Microsoft 365 AI, security, ideation, business solutions, modern work, and more at SharePointEurope.com. That is in Dublin from 1st to 4th of December. I'll be there. A lot of other people will be there as well to actually talk with the community members and customers and partners. Now, ECS 2026 following up on 5th to 7th of May 2026. That's in Cologne, Germany. Super easy location to travel into, central within the Germany, and a great venue as well. More than 3,000 attendees expected there as well. And we do have a lot of other events happening all around the world from different locations, different regions. Some of these are in person, some of these are hybrid, but you want to check out communitydays.org for full complete list of the different sessions which are available, so you can actually meet other people within the community as well. Now, as said when we started, this week's list of news isn't actually that much. So this is the collected news from all of the Microsoft blogs and from Microsoft 365 and Power Platform, and it was only 5 news in a certain small set of blog platforms. However, the Microsoft Ignite 2025 announcement started rolling at 8 a.m. Pacific time. It is 10 past now, so there's going to be a lot of news which are now available in multiple blog posts. I haven't updated this slide for that one, so I do apologize on that. It would have been really, really hard to do that when I'm actually talking at the same time. But we'll share an updated list of all of the news from Microsoft Ignite and then next Tuesday, so we'll stay easily up to date on those. Now, we also wanted to remind on the prompt library. We do have our Copilot prompt library, which is a centralized location where you can go and get some inspiration on how would the Copilot can be changed. So what are the things that Copilot can do on behalf of me? And we always celebrate the prompt of the week, which is this time coming from Andreev, which is really kind of a productivity prompt analyzing the Outlook inbox. And there was a lot of individuals' rules and specification and guidance what he was actually using within his prompt. It's a much longer than that actually on the left side, but it's really giving that kind of a 7-day inbox review and an action framework where you should be spending time to be efficient within your work. So really awesome example how to use prompts and together with Copilot. So thank you, Andreev, on providing that. Now, then it is time to go to the picture time. So let me actually flip the cameras on and let's see if I can actually make this work. I can say Shao, I can say Armin, I can say David. I will need to flip on together mode picture. And moving you here, let's see how things are working today. Hopefully we are again pixel perfect. Looking into that, let me actually flip the view a bit, changing the scene. That is so boring. That normal one. Oh, we're pixel perfect. This is really good. This is really good. So let's go to the auditorium. That is good. So let's wait a few more seconds. We are on the schedule, which is great. So we don't have to rush on this. We can wait a few more things. It always takes a while for people to actually drop by. Hey, Todd, are you on that side? Yes, you are. Okay. So I'm trying to figure out on which side you are. Let's wait a few more seconds before we actually start recording. Maybe that is enough. We do apologize every now and then. It just does not work for everybody. But let's do 3, 2, 5. Let's do some hand waving. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining, everybody on the community. Cool to have you on the call and cool to have so many familiar faces and smiling faces on here as well. Thank you, Todd, for showing the example. And a big hand on the left side as well. But thank you, everybody, for joining today. Awesome to have you on the community. Technology makes us sitting almost virtually in the same room. This is really cool. So thank you for that. We're going to share that in the social media later today. Thank you for being part of that. Now, let me then go to the actual stars of today. So that was a quick recap on what we covered and what is the latest news. Again, all of the Ignite news announcements started rolling at 10 minutes ago. So there's a lot of new stuff available pretty soon. But today, the real stars within this show will be Damien and Derek. And Damien's going to start on the Power Platform Code Interpreter. How is it so difficult to say this word for me to say? I don't understand. Damien, explain what is the right pronunciation on that.
Interpreter.
Interpreter. I'll learn that. Yeah.
Python in prompts. Is that easier?
Yes. Cool.
Okay. Well, I'll share away. Hopefully,
yes, please do share.
It's making its way through to you right now.
Yep, I can see the screen. We are good to go.
Brilliant.
Take it away.
So this is me at some of those different events that you mentioned earlier. The community is definitely a big part of my life too. So I'm not necessarily speaking at the bottom here, but I have been to conferences of all sizes and spoken in front of some of the groups, sharing some of my passion. So it's great to get a chance to come and speak on this. And day to day, my role at Microsoft is a cloud solution architect, but also community being a big thing. I run a YouTube. So if you want to connect with me, you can find me as DamoBird365 and learn from one of my 200 plus videos that I now have on my channel. So today's session is really all about Code Interpreter. And this is my slide deck. The end. That's it, I'm afraid. I am going to attempt a fully live demo today. That's what I like doing. So it could go right, it could go wrong, but I'm going to hopefully take you through what Code Interpreter is, and what better way to start that idea off is to start in Copilot. So I've decided that today I want to demonstrate Code Interpreter in prompts. And my use case is I have a CSV file that's coming into an automation, into a Cloudflow. I want a prompt to look at that CSV to identify specific transactions. They relate to pending payments for invoices or accounts payable. And within that CSV, there's going to be some data that could be could result in transactions being overdue, and manually I'll go and mark them as overdue. And I might want to also highlight transactions greater than $2.5 grand. So this is my thought process when I was speaking to Copilot 365, and it gave me some various options, and it gave me a lovely little flow chart. But ultimately, this is what I'm hoping to build. An email comes in, a CSV will be contained within it. We'll pass that CSV to a prompt. The prompt will turn that CSV into an Excel file. It'll also generate a chart, all magically within a prompt, and that will be the power of Code Interpreter. That's the hope. So a link for Code Interpreter, definitely some good content on what it's all about and what it can do. And Code Interpreter can be available in prompts in the Power Platform, but it's also available in declarative agents or declarative agents, depending on how you say it. This I keep me right, in the Copilot Studio Lite, and it's also available in Copilot Studio Full as well. And there is a difference between the Code Interpreter experience in prompts versus Copilot Studio. Prompts is very much vibe coded Python. It's written once, it runs once, and or I say runs once, it runs the same code again and again. It's not editable. If you're doing it in your agents, the code is written in real time. But it can take Excel, it can take Word, PDFs, etc. It can output Excel files, which is quite exciting. It can output images, which is what I'm going to demonstrate today. And it can also write to Dataverse as well using the Web API. So there's an awful lot of stuff that you can do with this. If you want to go and play with it and you're finding that it says it's blocked, you might need to jump across into the Power Platform Admin Center and go to Copilot Settings, and you will see there is a code generation and execution in Copilot Studio setting. So if it's disabled, you might need to ask your Power Platform admin to go and enable it. It's on an environment by environment basis. Right, now we're going to go and build it, hopefully. So I'm over on Copilot Studio, and what I'm going to kick off with is to create a prompt. I have built this earlier, so if it all falls over, then I have got a working version of it, but let's build it and see what goes wrong and learn together. So over in Tools, I can create a new tool, and I can create a prompt. And that prompt, it is very much like what you might send to, say, ChatGPT or Copilot, and this is reusable. So every time that you call this prompt, it will rerun this exact prompt. And so I have one that I provided, or that I wrote earlier. I want you to analyze this CSV data using Python and output as Excel, where there is a tab for each department, and highlight any row that is overdue in red, any that exceed 2.5 thousand, highlight in orange. So remember these colors: red is overdue, orange is over 2.5 thousand. And then as a separate output, I would like a bar chart. Now, that is my prompt. Before I go and save it or test it, we need to go into this more setting, this 3 dots, the ellipsis. And under here, you've got settings, and we have the ability to enable Code Interpreter. And this is where you might hit the block if it's not been enabled on your admin center. So I can toggle that on. That's now enabling Python in my prompts. And in addition to what I've written here, I also need to pass in an input parameter. So I'm actually going to delete CSV, use a / and provide text as an input, because a CSV is plain text. It can also accept files as inputs. And then I need some sample data. And again, because I want to sort of highlight how I use Copilot, I'm going to pop open Copilot on the right-hand side because I need some sample CSV data for my demo. So using something, if this is going to let me paste, oh dear, demo gods, are they going to get me? Nope, there we go. I've pasted in a prompt that I've written earlier to generate a sample CSV file for my accounts payable data, and it should include various fields. And if I hit send, remember this isn't me using prompts in Copilot Studio or in Power Platform. This is me using Copilot to do 10 times more to produce a CSV file. And we should now, hopefully, off the back of this, get me a CSV file. It's spinning at the moment. And I hope it's going to give me a sample CSV. If it doesn't, I do have one I prepared earlier. So let's see what's going to happen. It's spinning, it's spinning. I'm going to, oh, there we go. Download the sample. I can open up the file and I have my sample file. Okay. So I can copy this, my sample file for my demo that I'm doing, and I can provide that sample data here, which should now allow me to test my new prompt that I've written. And when I test it over on the right-hand side, it should give me some sample output, both an Excel file with the breakdown that I've asked for, but also a bar chart of the monthly invoice amounts for all the transactions on the file. So over on the right-hand side, it's thinking. It's also writing some Python to perform these these requirements that are in my prompt. And if I toggle to documents and images, there we go. Good. Hopefully everyone saw that. I toggled to documents and images. We now have two sample files. We've got an invoice report Excel file, which I can download and open. And if we remember those colors, it was red for overdue, and it was orange for anything over 2,500. This is literally live, and this is how it works, and it's doing stuff, which is good. But also you'll see down the bottom, we've got separate tabs, depending if it's marketing, finance, HR. So I've got the finance transactions. There are 2 that are overdue. There are 3 that are clearly over 2,500. Again, HR, IT, operations. So I'm quite happy with the way that particular prompt is run. And if I download also this PNG file and open that up as well, that gives me my totals on a month-by-month basis. So August, September, October, and November, my bar chart of invoice amounts as a summary. That's thankfully what I was hoping for. But what I want to highlight is, again, on this toggle at the top, the text, I can go into code view, and this is my Python. So this is the stuff that's been vibe coded by my prompt, and this is the stuff that will run again and again and again. So I'm going to give it a name, which is my accounts payable prompt, and we'll call it 1811. So hopefully I can find it and I'll save it. This is saving to Power Platform. It's in my particular environment that I'm working on right now. And you can see out of the box, it's asking me, do I want to add it to an agent? But no, because today what I want to do is I want to build a flow. As much as I'd like to build an agent, I'm going to build a flow for you. So over into flows, and the idea behind my process was I'm going to have a CSV file that's going to come into a shared mailbox. It's a legacy system, and that legacy system is monitoring my shared mailbox. And when an email arrives in my shared mailbox has an email address, RFI, and I'm going to put in place a subject filter. Now, you might want to do this in real life, because if you've got lots of different emails coming into your mailbox, you don't want it triggering on every single email that comes in. So I'm going to call this my, what am I going to call it? My invoice demo for the subject filter. So only anything that comes into my mailbox with invoice demo will it trigger. So with that in place, it is going to trigger on invoice demo. I can also put a filter in place so that it will only trigger on emails with attachments. You can include attachments, but I would argue if you read the docs, it's not the best practice. Instead, I'm going to use an action to get attachments. And we can see we've got get attachment v2 here. And then just go through filling out all the dynamic content. So if I want to search for message ID, I can put in place the message ID. We're going to see something magical in a minute. So if you keep an eye on this space here, we're going to see that when I select the attachment ID, like so, ping, it chucks me into an apply to each, because the data that comes into the trigger for when an email arrives is an array or a table of one or many attachments. So that's why we automatically get thrown into this loop. Because I'm doing a shared mailbox, I need to go and tick this box here and insert RFI, like so. So that's me now getting the attachments. And then what I'd like to do is I would like to run a prompt. So let's go and have a look for run a prompt, like so. Okay, so we've now got our run a prompt. And I have my accounts payable prompt for the 18th and the 11th. You can see I did some practice earlier on with the other one underneath. And it's exactly the same prompt that I've just built for you. And I need to pass in the CSV data. So with the get attachment, this is going to get the content of the attachment. And then in the CSV input, I can go and search for content bytes, like so. And this is where things get very interesting, because the output of the prompt is various texts. I actually want to do parse JSON and all sorts. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make something and break it and then show you how to make it work. So at the moment, I'm going to send an email because I want to send an email containing the bar chart that I've created. I will send that to my RFI. So I'm just going through a standard process of here is your chart, filling out a action for sending an email. Here is your chart, but I'd like to attach that chart as part of this email. If I was to go into the advanced properties for the attachment and attachment file name and go and have a look at attachment for the dynamic attachment content, this is where I wanted to get to and show you that when I look at the runner prompt, all I have access to is text and finish reason, and there's no see more. And I know that when I tested my prompt earlier, it included a file, both a file for the bar chart, but also a file for the Excel file. So what we need to do is to save, publish, and test this, and then have a look at what's in the input parameters or the output parameters of our action. Right, so I've set up my flow. It's going to trigger based on the subject filter for invoice demo. If I come across into my email, I'll create a new email. We will put in the RFI address. I'll put in the subject, and then I am going to get my sample file that I downloaded a second ago, which will be in my downloads, and attach it. There we go. So that's my CSV file. I can send that across. I hope I put in the right title, did I? So I'm having doubts about myself. Let's see. It should come in. Invoice demo is the subject title. If I come across back onto my flow, I can go into activity. I can see that it's running right now. So my flow is running. An action failed, that's fine, which is what I'd hoped for and expected. My send an email has failed. What I wanted to highlight was in the run a prompt action, we have the raw outputs. And if this loads up for me, yeah, it's loading up for me. Let me zoom in as well. As I scroll down through the content, we'll be able to see that there is actually a files array, and that files array contains base64 for my invoice report and also base64 for my PNG, my image file. Now I'm conscious of time because we have probably about another 5 minutes left of this demo. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into the flow that I built earlier, jump into the future and show you what I built earlier in the day, because in there, I've got the same thing as before. When a new email arrives, I've got the for each, I've got the get attachments, I've got the run a prompt. I did a parse JSON using the data that came back from the run a prompt, which allowed me to then write some expressions, which I really wanted to show you. I'm creating a copy of the file that's generated and using a timestamp for the prefix to the file. I'm also converting that base64 that we saw in the sample output so we can create that file. But also I'm using the send an email action. And as I scroll down through that, we can see again the expression that's used to get the last base64 and send that as an attachment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trigger this automation now and show you what the output looks like. So this particular one's got a different subject filter of accounts payable. I'll jump across into my mailbox again, and I will hit that RFI address with that new accounts payable. And also, let me grab a CSV. So I'll bring a CSV across, attach it. You'll see that I've got a SharePoint site. If I do a refresh, magically it's empty at the moment. The hope is I will do my send in my email. This is my legacy process. It's going to send this CSV into my mailbox. And then my hope is over on the activity of this particular flow, it ran last at 1:59 as I was preparing for my next customer demo. And I'm hoping that this particular email, as I speak slower and slower, I see the emails come in, which is good. It should hopefully trigger. Let's check the overview tab. Magically hit the refresh button several times. It will work. I'm confident. Keep clicking it multiple times. And it's worth, I guess, saying at this point, most people think that flows are instant. They are never instant. They actually sit in a workflow queue and can take up to 3 minutes to trigger, which is always ideal in a demo like this. Oh, yes, there we go. It's kicked off. So it started. I had all faith in Power Platform. There we go. It's gone through the process of running a prompt, parsing it, creating a file, sending an email. If I come across into my SharePoint, we can see it's created a file. And if I click on that and open it, I should see similar data as before. It's highlighted transactions that are overdue. And if I go across into different tabs, this is actually a different data set. I have transactions that are over 2.5, and there's one under 2.5. And if I jump across into my email, and there we go, I've got an email that's come in and it's given me a chart containing all of that monthly data using the CSV in my prompt, which is Python in Code Interpreter. So I think that's close to 20 minutes. I invite you to sign up to my YouTube and follow some of my videos where I talk about Copilot Studio and demonstrate some of these capabilities, including the prompts that I've just demonstrated, but all the latest features in Copilot Studio. Over 200 videos now and almost 23,000 subscribers. And thanks very much for the opportunity to demo.
Excellent. Thank you, Damien. And as said, just to recap, do subscribe on Damien's YouTube channel. Awesome content over there as well. And he keeps on submitting cool stuff there. You are pretty busy on your work side as well. So, but there's still time to publish awesome new videos all the time. So thank you, Damien, on that one.
Cheers.
Cool. Derek, you are next in the queue. So as we transition and the learning pathways and how it was built. So this is a super complex. Is it super complex? Yes, it is. It's pretty complex. Microsoft 365 solution. Yes. So good to have you here, Derek. And I can hear you. I can see you. Take it away.
All right. So as Vesa said, we're going to talk about learning pathways and how we built the solution. My name is Derek Cash-Peterson. I'm a principal architect at Simpraxis Consulting. As Vesa mentioned, our team worked with Microsoft to build this solution, and I personally have been helping to maintain this solution for several years now. So with that said, I know I was just here a couple of weeks ago talking about sort of the use cases for learning pathways, but there's always new folks on the call, so I'm going to do a quick intro into what learning pathways is. So it is a customizable learning platform from Microsoft and the MVP community. It is essentially a micro-learning platform. Its ability to provide small, little bite-sized chunks of training to your end users. It can also be used as a custom learning platform. So if you have custom content in your organization about your business process, you can use it to help surface that information, as well as information about Microsoft tools and products and tools. It lets you blend that content together into customized playlists. So you can, choose what to show from the Copilot content and mix that in with your own guidance around those different tools. There's a couple of different features to Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways, and we'll see them in a little more detail here. But the first is it comes with a web part that lets you embed learning pathways on any single page that you want in your Microsoft 365 ecosystem. We can also add this as a Teams tab. So you can add it inside of your department team to provide training for specific departments. You can also use it as a personal app inside of Teams. And this is all using the same amount of code. It's just how we're surfacing it in different tools. There is support for 10 different languages: English, German, French, Russian, Chinese, Japanese, Brazilian, Portuguese, Spanish, Italian, and Dutch. I think that's all of them. But that's both not only UI, like the application has been translated into these 10 different languages, but also all of the Microsoft supported content is supported in those 10 languages as well. And we have the ability to create custom content through SharePoint pages or external URLs. Or if you wanted to really dive in deep, you could create your own custom content pack for your organization and not use any of the Microsoft related content. And lastly, there is a custom analytics webhook on that tool as well. So you can see what your users are doing with the content that you're providing to them. So you can actually use that to generate metrics around that content. So let's take a quick look at learning pathways in action. This is the site created through the site template, and it comes provisioned with a bunch of different pages on it. But we're going to click on the M365 training page, and this is going to bring the web part up onto the page. This is configured to show all of the options that we have here. So we've got different scenarios, we've got all the different product information, and then some adoption tools. And this is just what comes out of the box. This is what we've provided to the community as part of the tool. If you click in, you get to see all the different playlists that are related to that. So this is the Copilot playlist. We click into the Getting Started, and you can see here we've got an asset called Welcome to the M365 Copilot app. You can navigate to the next item in the playlists, either sequentially or from the drop-down in the center. We also have the ability to open this up in a larger full screen view. So if the content space that you've given it is too small, users can open it up into the full screen. And this is a dialog that overlays the screen. And so now we just go back to the home page. So this is just a very quick walkthrough for folks that haven't seen this before. But today's conversation, I'm going to focus more on how we built this, what the architecture looks like, so that you have a better understanding of the details behind the solution. So here we're going to start with the architecture. We start with what I call the Content CDN Lite. Essentially, we're using GitHub pages to surface up a series of JSON files that help with the configuration of the application and the delivery of all the content. Inside of that, we've got several different versions. We are on version 4 of the content schema, and so we have all the backwards compatible schemas for version 1, 2, and 3. They all look just like this. There's a file called JSON, playlist.json, assets.json, and metadata.json. And those things help control what content gets seen by the application. With V4, we introduced all that multilingual capability. And so because of that, things changed a lot. And so inside, and if you navigate to the repo, you can actually see all this yourself. There's a full manifest file, manifest.json, and that controls a bunch of very high-level metadata about the application. So we're talking, what is the current version? What is the default CDN? What are the languages we support? So like meta-based information. Then each language that we support has its own folder inside that documentation structure. And it's all based on the language codes for that language. So for the English language, we support EN-US. For Spanish, it's ES-ES. And each language has its own set of files because all the content, as I said, is translated into those different languages. So here we've got our playlists.json file, our assets.json file, and these control the number and the playlists that are displayed and the assets that are displayed. So if we look at this detail, here we've got an example of one of our playlists from the playlist JSON file. It obviously has a title and a description. As I just said, it gets translated to all the different languages. And inside of that, we've got our assets. These are GUIDs that are attached to individual assets inside the assets.json file. So here's an example of how that connection gets made. Now, if we look in more detail at the asset itself, you can see that that asset has a title. It does have a description, but we're not displaying that in any of the UI right now. So we have it in the data model. We're just not necessarily using it. We also have a status indicator here, and that is for an upcoming enhancement that I am working on to let you know when content has been retired. So for instance, we have a bunch of content in there that's related to Yammer, and we're not obviously showing Yammer content anymore, but I can't delete it in case somebody's using it. So I want to provide a visual indicator that lets folks know that content's been retired. Now, the real meat of this is the URL. This is the content that physically gets surfaced in the app. As part of that, we've got a couple of different components here. The first is the special endpoint that allows us to pull any content through and allow it to be iframed. So we pull all the Microsoft-related content from support.microsoft.com. We are able to use what they call the F1 endpoint, and this is the URL to that endpoint. We also have the unique ID of the asset on support.microsoft.com. So when you click on it, you'll see if you just went into the web browser to the same asset, to the same piece of learning, you would see a GUID in the URL. And so that GUID is what we use to help identify the asset that we want to pull out. And lastly, we have a few query string parameters. This helps us control and make sure that the navigation doesn't show up and we don't have sort of embedded multiple nav items in there. And it hides a bunch of content inside the page so that we just surface the content area. So this URL and this combinations of patterns here let us use just about any piece of data on support.microsoft.com. The next step here is really where the content sources come from. All of these locations come from either support.microsoft.com, learn.microsoft.com, or docs.microsoft.com. One of the two, one of the three. So those are the links that are made inside the assets file. Now, there's an entire whole set of componentry that live inside your tenant. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So the first part is the SharePoint Framework solution, right? This is the SPPKG file. This tool was written using the SharePoint Framework. You install it into either a tenant app catalog or a site collection app catalog. In addition, we also have a Teams manifest as part of the solution. That's what lets you enable the Learning Pathways web part inside either a Teams tab or a personal app. We have a few tenant app properties, and these get set during the installation process, depending on how you're installing the solution. And you can just see, it's about providing the URL to the learning site, what the default CDN is, and where your, if you do decide to turn on the analytics webhook, what's the web, what URL do you need to send the request to? The biggest component really is the Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways site. This is where all the information lives. We've got the admin web part, we've got the viewer web part, and then we have a bunch of web-specific lists that are specific to your tenant. These are any custom assets that you've created, any custom playlist that you've created. They all go into those lists, and then that generates a cache. And then that cache gets stored because you can imagine trying to sift through all this data real time. We needed to implement some caching. And lastly, if you want to use the Learning Pathways web part in other sites in your tenant, like say you want to embed it on your communication site for HR, you can do that. You just need to install the web part in that particular SharePoint site. And just to be clear, everything that I am talking about right here, the custom data, the web part properties, all of that stays and lives in your tenant. That data is not transmitted to anyone unless you turn telemetry on. Telemetry is one of the properties that you can submit. And at the end of the day, it actually doesn't submit anything other than your tenant ID and the ID of the asset that you hit. So there's no identifying information. It's really just your tenant ID. And that is the telemetry is opt-in. By default, it is turned off. So if you bring all that back together, you can start to see how between the content sources, getting the reference data in the CDN, pulling in the data from the content sources and surfacing all that information inside your tenant. All right, so if we start looking at the user experience of it all, you can start to get a hit of what is there. So here, this is the viewer web part, and this is embedded here on a SharePoint page. You can configure this viewer web part to basically filter down and show everything or show one specific asset. It's really got a bunch of different toggles for you to make that happen and to surface it in the way that's going to make sense for you. When you click in to a specific topic, so this is a category, a subcategory for Copilot. So these are all of the assets related to Copilot. These are all the playlists related to Copilot. You can click into a specific playlist to get more information about that topic. So this one, let's get started with SharePoint agents. This is the same JSON that we were looking at when we were looking at the architecture. When you click into it, you can see here again as the viewer web part showing a different set of data. You can see here we're in the get started with SharePoint agents playlist through the navigation breadcrumbs. And then we also have a search box, and you can choose to show or hide that search box based on configuration of the web part. The search box will actually let end users search all the assets and give them the opportunity, like if they want to specifically find something about Excel, they can, or pivot tables, they can type in pivot and they'll find all of the assets related to pivot tables. Users inside of a playlist have the ability to jump back and forth using the next or previous buttons to navigate through the set of content that you provided to them. The content, and this is that data from the sources, gets surfaced in front, in the center of the screen. Just the content, not any of the navigation and anything like that. And as I showed in the first video, you can come in and you can expand this to full screen. When you do that, it just does an overlay and takes over the whole screen. You've still got the same functionality in terms of forward, next, and then jumping back and forth inside the dropdown. And then that's an overlay, so you can close it and the user is still in context of where it is that they are. Now, if we go back to the sort of homepage for the site, there is a link to the administration site. There's an entire admin component to all of this. The first, and this is an example of the screen for the administration. We've got our categories. These are on the left-hand side. These are the top level categories that you can see. These are not editable unless you create a custom content pack. So we've got getting started, scenarios, products, and adoption tools. Generally, when I work with this, for my clients, I fit different subcategories inside of, say, scenarios or in getting started. Now, underneath every category, we have our subcategories. They're listed both in the navigation on the left, and if you click on, say, getting started, you'll see them all in the center pane of the web part. We have the ability inside of each subcategory to show or hide that content based on the preferences for our organization. So for instance, if I want to turn off, I haven't rolled out Copilot for the organization yet, and I want to turn off the ability to see the training around Copilot, I can do that. Or I say Copilot, we don't want to turn off Copilot. You can turn off any other tool that you're not using. We can also create our own new subcategories. So here I could create HR learning paths, or training for procedure training. You could do all of that as well, and you can create custom content bases. And you can check out the video I did 2 weeks ago about how you can create your own custom content in Learning Pathways. Now, from an installation perspective, for those of us that remember the lookbook fondly, we have the site template that was related to the lookbook. You need to now, if you want to do that, and that's the site template that I was showing before, you can essentially create a learning site collection all on your own in the user interface. And then you need to download and install the P&P site template. And then install that using PowerShell. It's basically downloading it and running 1 or 2 lines of PowerShell, and you can get the entire template installed. If you don't want to do that, if you want to just create your own site and install Learning Pathways into it, we have an option for you to do that as well. You can download and install the solution, the SPPKG file, and then you need to create your Learning Pathways site. And then we've created a PowerShell script to do all the installation work that the site template is doing as well. Now, the big difference between the two is that if you install with the site template, it provisions all of the pages. So all of those pages that you saw in the previous screens, it configures the web part on those pages. It also installs content in all 10 languages. If you do a manual installation without the site template, then you're on your own. You need to create the pages that you want to provide to your end users. So it really depends on what you want your scenario to be. A couple of notes on the installation. Because we're using those tenant app properties, you do need to be a SharePoint admin and a site collection admin on the learning site that you create. That will allow the PowerShell to run with enough privileges to set that to set those tenant properties. If you don't have those privileges, you could get them temporarily, do the installation, and then have them taken away, or you can get someone that has those roles to be able to do the installation for you. And lastly, on installation, be very careful about the default languages for the sites or languages in general. Because as I said before, if you install with the site template, it installs all 10 languages. Now, if your organization is a single language, you want to make sure that you want to install them because the web part's doing work. It's managing the cache for all of those 10 languages. The other thing to think about is if your organization's first language or language of business is not English, make sure that the default language for your site is set to your default language for business before you do the installation. And the reason for that is that in the event that you add custom content, you'll need to create, there's a requirement that there be a title and a description for the default language. So if your primary language is French, you don't want to have to create content in English just to use learning pathways. So set the default language to French, and then the default information will need to be in French. So for multilingual folks or folks whose primary language is not English, just be aware. Now, from a technical perspective, how did we do this? This is a SharePoint framework solution. For the client-side coding, we're using React. We're using the SharePoint framework. We used version 1.19. That's the last version where we did a big update. We upgraded it to PNP.js for all the data and working with the REST APIs to version 4.2. And you'll notice all the nice UI elements. We're using the H2O React library version 2.5. Now, H2O is an HTML and CSS based Fluent UI framework for Microsoft 365. It is pure HTML and CSS, and so that's why we chose to use that instead of the Fluent UI React controls. And so there is a React library, a set of controls that you can use, but H2O in and of itself is just HTML and CSS, and I use that for all of my projects. And then for the installation aspect, we have a series of PowerShell scripts that you can use to do the installation. Now, I've got like 1 minute left. Vesa made an announcement earlier. We have some big news around learning pathways. So Microsoft helped to provide support financially for learning pathways to do the initial build, as well as being responsible for all the content updates. Now, Learning Pathways, as of, I think, technically officially December 1st, Learning Pathways is 100% community supported, which means that any one of you could make a request for any new content that you want to see. Previously, we had to rely on the Microsoft team to sort of go through the requests and provide what they could provide when they had the resources to do so. But now we're hoping we can respond better to quicker, to community needs and have quicker content updates and better response time to the community. So how can you get involved? This is super exciting. You can submit a content request. You can ask for any content that more or less that comes from support.microsoft.com. You can also ask a question. If you know about learning pathways, you can go into the repository. If you have a question, you can answer it. Chances are I am going to be the person that answers it for you. If you see a piece of functionality that you think would be cool, make a feature request. I will review that and try to determine whether or not it makes sense in our product roadmap. If you're a power user of this tool and you feel ambitious, go ahead and answer questions in the repository. I look at them and double check them anyway. So if you feel like you've got something to share, you can share that through the repository. And I've talked about this a bunch, but this is the URL to the repository, github.com/pnp/custom-learning-office-365. And you can get to that either from here or from the PNP website. And with that, I am done, Vesa.
Excellent. Thank you, Derek, on that one. Right on time, so we can close up within 20 or 30 seconds, and people can actually transition to the Ignite keynote. So because that's starting right about now. So, but thank you, Damien. Thank you, Derek. Really cool. Great work on the demos. Great work on the presentation as well. So we are all good there. Now, next week we have Paolo Pialorsi joining us. He's actually Ignite this week, but next week he's going to talk about the integrating Azure AI search for RAG in Copilot Studio. A really cool capability. Also a lab, which is a new lab which is available. And then me and Andrew Kono, we're going to talk about the upcoming SharePoint Framework 122. There's some significant tool changes on there, and we're going to go through all of that together with AC on next Tuesday. Pretty technical demo set for next Tuesday for sure. That's on 25th of November. Now, in the meanwhile, you can also don't miss out our Power Platform community call tomorrow and the community demos call on Thursday. And we also have our Discord server. If you are in the Discord, this is a good location to join into. We're 20 people and members away from 3,000 members within this group. So you could be the one just calling that out. We're always also looking for feedback on these calls, what worked, what doesn't. It helps us on continuing these calls going live and keeping them alive also in future. So if you have a few minutes, please fill in the form. But that's it for today. We're going to publish the recording at the Microsoft Community Learning YouTube channel within 24 hours at the AKMS Community YouTube. And that's pretty much it. We'll be back tomorrow with Power Platform Community Call as set, the monthly one Thursday, and next Tuesday we have the November 25th community call normally. But that's it for now. Thank you everybody for joining, and we'll be back. Cheers everybody. Bye-bye.